Welcome back to the Anxious Tradeswoman podcast, where I, your host, Louise as a party, share what I've learned through the years, through the tears, so you don't have to. So this is episode 22, and we are going to be talking about thinking of something positive every time you think of something negative. And I just wanted to do a quick mention to this episode's supporter, MEGT Australia. I'll talk a little bit about them later. So what I mean by thinking something positive every time you think of something negative is just that. So often we try and just think positively, and if it works for you, then I'm glad. If you're like me and that doesn't work, then this might be for you. The purpose of this concept is, instead of going from thinking 80 to 90% negatively to 100% positively, we go for 50-50. Focusing on the negative is literally how the human race survived. We need to remember that the berries that were poisonous, so we wouldn't eat them and die, but remembering the ones that tasted good didn't really help in the long run. The benefit of this is we start to see real change. It's achievable, and our inner voice doesn't roll its eyes at it as it does, for me anyway, when I'm like, I'm going to be positive. And it's like, rightio, yeah, no. Anyway, to implement this, we're just going to start off by giving it a go. Your brain might pick it up straight away and you might find it super easy. But if you don't and you still find yourself spiraling down into the negative, then we want to catch ourselves and pull ourselves out of the negative using a circuit breaker. So I've spoken about circuit breakers in previous episodes, but I will go through them again because they are super useful in so many situations. We want to do something that connects us to the here and now, that stops the spiral that generally takes us either way out into the future or back into the past. So my favorite circuit breaker is stopping and having a drink of water. So this is kind of like a two-way hack. So it literally hacks the mind, because when it does the math, drinking or eating equals safety. If our life was in danger, then we wouldn't be able to eat or drink, and it actually helps stop the flight, fight, or freeze response that the body does when we get stressed out. So when we go on this spiral, we tend to get that worked up feeling, like you feel it in your body, that stress, that anxiety. But by drinking, we've got something to focus on. So focusing on the coolness of the water as it goes down your throat brings you to the here and now. And then also your brain's like, if we're stopping to have a drink, we mustn't be in that much danger. Let's calm everything down. So once we break the circuit, we feel calmer, then we can go into thinking about something positive. So we can use anything as a circuit breaker that brings you to the here and now. So you might already have some that you're using, essential oils, whether they heal or whatever is neither here nor there, but they have a strong smell that you can use to focus yourself to the here and now. Checking in with our five senses is another one. So naming something you can hear, you can see, you can smell, you can touch. Hear, smell, see, touch. Taste. I was like, what is the fifth one? And then, if you're at home or somewhere where you can do it, go outside and take your shoes off and put your feet on the ground. I honestly don't do this enough, but it's like a bigger grounding than just the little circuit breakers, something that's a good recharge. When we calm our mind, it actually then starts to allow us to bring in more positive thoughts. And I had some other notes. What did I bring in here? Okay, so I'm going to talk about the next episode. I was like, I think I had a note in here, but I had it noted down for the next episode. So anyway, when we are doing this, 50-50 is achievable in our brain. Like I said before, your inner voice rolls its eyes at you when you're like, positivity. And that toxic positivity, it starts with toxic. So yeah, that kind of brushing everything with a brush oh yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. I was like, I stopped halfway through my notes for this episode. When I was writing them, I got caught up with something. So I was like, I had something I wanted to write down. Running our negative scenarios all the way to the end. So often, and running them logically, step by step. So often we're like, okay, if I make a mistake on this job, then the world will end, I'll lose my job, and it feels awful. So our brain automatically goes to that. This is a concept that I first heard from Cara Lowenthal. She's got the podcast Unfuck Your Brain. Definitely recommend her podcast. But she talks about this, like actually plan it out step by step. What will actually happen? So say if you're working on a job and you're not 100% sure what your boss is like or your supervisor's like, yeah, I want you to give it a go. Like, I want you to give it a go. So what would happen? So you think, okay, I'll make a mistake on this. He'll never give me, like, I'll make a mistake on this and the world will end and it feels really awful. And then you like get paralyzed by either perfectionism or like just not wanting to make the mistake. But logically, what would happen? So you start your job, your supervisor gives it to you, you start doing it, and let's say you do make a mistake. What's going to happen when you make the mistake? You tell your supervisor will be like, show me what it is, and then they'll be like, oh, okay, cool. Like, oh, you just have to adjust this. Or they'll be like, okay, cool, we need to order a part. Especially if, like, let's say that specific example where they've told you, you said, I'm not sure if I can do it, and they said, I want you to try, then generally it's not a task where you can catastrophically break something or they know that you can do it kind of thing. So, or they know it's an easy fix if it does go wrong. So when you go through that, you know, okay, what would happen if you made a mistake? Our brain would go, if we just let it, it'll be like, you'll lose your job and you'll be homeless forever and no one will ever love you and this will be awful. But realistically, if you make a mistake, you'll tell your supervisor will most likely be like, okay, let's do this. This is what we need to do next. And then you do it and then you move on. You know, worst case scenario, he'll be a bit like, oh, grumpy, or they'll be a bit grumpy. But if they have put you in that situation, then that's another factor. But if they're a bit grumpy, then they'll get over it anyway. So we want to make sure that we're running all these situations to the end if we are having these negative spirals, because then we can also put things in place. So if we run the mistake, like run the worst case scenario, and we are thinking, you know, okay, I want to, even we can do it with the like, okay, I didn't think of a good enough example for this except for that one where you make a mistake at work. But you know what I mean? You run it through the situation. Okay, I'm going to start writing this essay, and if I don't finish this essay, then the world's going to end. No, if you don't finish this essay, you'll probably get, like, marks will be deducted or you'll just have to ask for extension. My sister is in uni, so that's, like, the next thing that I've come up with because she's been talking about essays for so long. But even if like studying or your family situation, okay, what's going to happen if I don't make it to this family party? So-and-so is going to hate me and never talk to me again. Actually, no, if you can't make it to the party, you'll probably message them and say, hey, I'm so sorry. I'm so caught up in everything. I hope you have a great time. And they'll probably be like, oh, sad you couldn't come. Like kind of thing. Like you can run it through logically what would happen. Okay, so recap on that. This thinking something positive every time you think something negative allows you to come back to the here and now reasonably. We're training our mind to find more positive things so we're not like negative all the time. And we don't want to go 100% positive. If that works for you, then it works for you. But typically inner voice rolls its eyes and you're left there like, okay, now I'm back at square one. So we want to do 50-50. If you're finding that you're spiraling, remember to implement any of your circuit breakers, which can be drinking, having a snack, essential oils, anything that brings you to the here and now. And then we go back to that 50-50. If you find your mind spiraling all the time, run the scenarios to the end. It allows you to see like logically to the end, step by step. Don't just skip everything and think the world is going to end. Go back, run it through step by step. This allows you to see that most likely it's not going to be as bad as your brain thinks it's going to be. And then also it allows you to prepare for anything that could go wrong. All right, that is that. So if you would like any help or support with this process, you can join my Facebook community, Tradeswomen Owning Their Power. Or if you like one-on-one support or you're a business wanting to make the workplace better for tradeswomen and minorities, you can inquire through my website, louiseasaparty.com. And I'd just like to thank this episode's sponsor, MEGT. So MEGT is a national apprenticeship network provider. And they host women in trade events all over the country, with the next one being in Western Australia, which is the Thursday after this comes out. So it's Thursday, the 9th of November, from 11:30 to 1:30 at the Master Builders Association of WA in Davenport. If you go to their website, which is linked in the description, you can go and sign up for that and also keep track of any other events that they have coming up. Thank you everyone for listening, and I will see you in the next podcast.